Let's take a look at a few other Windows commands that may be helpful. Let's start with who am I? So when I type in who am I, it's going to come back with the name of my device. We can use the help prompt as well. If we do who am I and we use the /?, it will bring up all the information about the who am I command. So the syntax usage is shown here. There are three different syntax usages, and then there is a description. We find out that this is a utility and its application is here, and then we also have parameters, just as we saw in the previous videos. We have examples, so these are things that you could actually type in different commands from there. So let's clear the screen and let's look now at the system information. So we just type in system info. So the information that we have here from the output of this, it gives the host name, the operating system name and version. That's going to be important for us in the future, especially as we start looking around and trying to figure out what the vulnerabilities are of the system. We can actually look at specific versions and launch an attack based on what the common vulnerabilities are, or maybe the 0-day vulnerabilities that have just been identified. It gives the configuration type, the build type, the organization, the product ID, the install date. So this is actually when I created this virtual machine. The boot time, the manufacturer, the model. This is a virtual box and it is a 64 based PC. It has one processor installed when I set up the virtual machine, and the main directory is Windows directory. The system directory is system32, just like all Windows systems. The boot device, so this is where it is actually booting from, and that is a hard disk image, an ISO image, and now it's booting off of the location. Also, some information like time zone information. It's giving us the time zone here in Pacific time. The physical memory of the device. This is the memory that I set up when I created the virtual machine. The available physical memory, so that's going to be important, especially if we start looking for memory buffers and things like that in the future. The maximum size, the available memory, and then the virtual memory that is in use at this time. The domain is actually a work group, the logon server, and then the hotfixes installed. And this is going to be some information that we can use as well in the future. Network cards. There's some more information there, and we see the connection name. We see DHCP is enabled. The server is 192.168.1.1. The IP addresses for that, we have .170 for the specific machine, and the hypervisor. We know that this is a virtual machine, so we are using the hypervisor. So there is a lot of information in this system info command to keep in mind. So let's put that in our toolbox for later. Something else that comes in handy is IPconfig. So if we don't know what IPconfig does, let's find out. IPconfig /?. Here's the output information of that. So here's the usage of that, and see that there's quite a few things there. A lot of options for this as well. The default is to display only the IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway for each adapter. So that's important as well. We can collect a lot of information from each of our adapters, and of course TCP/IP, if you remember from the OSI model. This is going to come in handy in the future as well as we look at the IP address and the different protocols in the layers of the OSI model. Very important. And they give some examples for using this. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the IPconfig by itself, and that's going to give us some information. And then we're going to do the all, and we're going to take a look at that as well. So let's use the up arrow and let's delete that information. Enter, and so it's running a little bit of an analysis here. It's running kind of slow because I have some background systems that are working, some virtual machine processes getting ready for the upcoming video, and so usually when you press enter it gives this information immediately, but in this case I do have some sub processes that are running and taking up some memory from the virtual machine. We can see that the connection specific DNS suffix is FiOS. So that lets me know that this is a FiOS router. The link local IPv6 address, you're probably familiar with IPv4 and IPv6 protocols. Here is our IPv4 address, which is the .170, and then our subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, and the default gateway is 0.1. Then we have some other information, the tunnel adapters and things like that show up as well. So this gives us a lot of good information. Let's go ahead and let's run the all like we saw before. So we just put all on the end of it, and let's see what it does. Here's the additional information that we've got. So we've got the host name, and we've got the node type. It's a hybrid node. Some information about the IP routing, DNS suffix information again for the FiOS router. And then we have some Ethernet adapter information here, so we can take a look at that. We've got a physical address. That's going to come in kind of handy here in the future. Auto config enabled. IPv6 information and 4. The subnet, our default gateway, and our server. Tunnel adapters. Here we see the name of both here, and this is a pseudo interface because of the virtual machine. So there's a little bit more information built in there. Let's clear the screen and let's go ahead and take a look at ping. So ping is probably one of the most used commands, whether it is network penetration testing or used by network admins as they're troubleshooting something. They will use ping to try to figure out if a service is up or down, if a person is logged in or logged out. So the ping command comes in fairly handy. So the first thing that we'll do, let's just go ahead and run ping, and we're going to run the help for it, a -t or a or what have you, and then the options actually tell us what those are. Like with the -t, it will continue to ping over and over again. Now when we run our ping command in just a minute, if we don't have the -t in the command, then it is going to run a series of pings and it's going to end by itself. But let's say that we want to continue to ping that target. We don't want to type in ping over and over again. We just want to continue to ping that IP address or website until we stop it. So the -t will do that. We can also resolve the addresses to host names as well. So a lot of good information here. Now what I usually do when I'm doing an overview of the ping, I'll just ping something like Google. Now obviously Google has many IP addresses, but this is the single ping that we were discussing a moment ago. So in pinging Google, I find out that this is the IP address that it's pinging. So it resolved the domain name to an actual IP address. It got replies, and it gives the bytes, it gives the time frame, and these are in milliseconds, and then the time to live information as well. So you see that it gave 4 of those and then ended. The statistics for the IP address, it sent 4 packets. The packets went out. There were 4 of them, and that reflects these 4 right here. They were received, so there was a reply from the address to us, and 0 were lost and 0%. And then it gives the approximate round trip times in milliseconds. So it takes an average of all of this information, and we find that we have a minimum, a maximum, and average. A lot of information there. If we run the ping command again, but this time what we would like to do is we would like to use the -t command. So we want to ping Google until we stop. So let's go ahead and enter. You can see that by pinging google.com, this time we are actually going to a different IP address. We're going to a 74 address, whereas last time it was a 64 address, just like we talked about. And so once we get ready to stop the command, because it will continue to ping Google over and over again, we're going to have to manually stop it, and the way to do that is a Control C as in Charlie, and that is going to end the ping series. Now in this case we see that 24 packets were sent, 23 were received. We lost 1, 4% loss. And we can see now that the average and the maximum and minimum changed a little bit. The minimum was 22 and the maximum 23, and that's an average of 22. A lot of good information there as well. Now, if we know what our IP address is, and in this case, if we go back and we look at the information that we ran, let's run the IPconfig, and I'm just using the up arrow. IPconfig all. So this is going to give me my IP address, and let's say that I just want to ping the gateway. So if I look down through the information here, I find that there is a default gateway 192.168.1.1. I can see that information is right here, 192.168.1.1. So what I can do is I can do a ping to 192.168.1.1, and we'll use the built-in ping, so it will use 4 pings. We can see that it went to the IP address, the time to live information, packets that were sent and received, and there were no packets that were lost. If I would like to continue to ping that gateway, I can put in a -t, and it's going to start pinging the gateway. Do you remember what we used to stop that? The Control C. Okay, so that's the IP config and the ping together.